Hello and welcome to the Kevin Sawyer channel. Hope you guys and girls are well and enjoying your day, whatever you're up to. Right, this is just a little quick, just an overview of my settings. Now, the reason I'm kind of going into this is twofold. One reason is, recently, literally, there was a Windows update, and I don't know if that affected my Simdash in any way or not. But it lost all my settings. It's reset everything to default. I don't know why. It could be because I was running on version 24, and it just or hadn't used it for a while or whatever. But for some odd reason, it's forgotten my settings. I've updated to 25 anyways as a safety measure, but I've had to go in and reset all my settings, which is a bit of a pain because I hadn't actually made a note of any of my settings, which I'm going to correct that now. I'm going to make a note of all my settings. I'm going to put it on a little Word document so then I know what's at what value. So if I do lose my settings again, I can go. I can more or less go straight for broke. Let me just reset my Simdash because it's. There we go. Cool. Alright, cool. Right, so this is also going to be a little tutorial as well for those people first setting it up. If you've got a similar cluster to me, which are sort of like similar make, this is from an Audi A8 early 2000. I'd say between 2000, well, between 98 to 2010, roughly time frame. You might find one of the scrappers or something, and you might want to do what I'm doing, which is make them run on a computer. It may help you out, or it might give you a bit of a baseline to work from once you've wired everything up and got everything working. I will go in, as everyone knows, I am planning to do an upgrade. I'm going to re-upgrade all my actual Simdash, and I'm going to show you how it's all wired up and everything. And what my plans are for everything else, and going to go for step my upgrade process. But I figured I'd show you my settings also because I had a lot of questions about my Simdash, about a lot of people struggling with the fuel gauge. They weren't getting the fuel gauge going, or the water temperature gauge on their Simdashes or their clusters. They're saying I've got this Renault Megane one or whatever, and this isn't working, or this isn't working. And I sort of gave little suggestions here or there and everywhere for getting their fuel gauge to work or whatever. So this hopefully will sort of like cover those. If I ever get another question, I can just divert them straight to this video. Anyway, so once you've installed your Simdash software, you'll get this screen, and obviously if you've got the Pro Gauge connected, then you should see it's highlighted as Pro Gauge. You can disable it from here, and you can configure it. If you press configure, if I move this over slightly so you guys can see, up at the top here you won't find none of this enabled. All of this will be disabled, and all the default, all the values will be slightly different. So you're gonna sort of like not know what to do. First things first, you need to ascertain, if you don't have this particular cluster, you need to ascertain what this maximum RPM range is. I'm guessing it doesn't actually say 8,000 on here, as you guys can see on the bottom there. It actually has this little stroke, but I'm guessing because there's 7,000 there, I'm guessing it goes right. This top limit is 8,000 RPM. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's been a while since I figured out how to work these out. But that's why I can't give you a guide on how to work out what these what the little dashes are. It sort of like varies from model to model. You just have to do some research and how it all works out. If you're looking for that, I'm sorry I can't help you with that, but I'm hoping it just like gives you an idea of how to set your clusters up or how to get them to work. So basically, as you can see, the steps, they step up in certain percentages, so from 3, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, roll down it. You can see it all goes down. So, you know, and free test this in now. This one's this gauge is quite simple, it's quite straightforward. It's telling you where it wants it set up. So it's 240 RPM. So that's going to be quite low on this. As you can see, I'm sorry about the light as well. I'm using my natural light. It's light enough for what we need to do. But as you can see, it's hardly moving. If I go up to 400, you can see it jumps up a little bit, but not a great deal. Then 800, then 1200, then 1600, then 2000 RPM, 2400, 2800, and see, these are the values here. That's, you can adjust these values in. You can't manually type them in. You have to. You can. There's two ways you can adjust them. Either by using the up and down. Once you select it, using the up and down buttons, or you can use the middle mouse button by scrolling. It jumps up in segments of 4. That's what I find. So when you go to adjust it, obviously with these, with the tacos, you'll probably find they're quite straightforward to set up. They should react when you increase or decrease. There is a maximum that the gauge can take, there's a minimum that the gauge can take, so you might have to sort of like just work within those values. You should see it rise up and down as you move up and down with the percentages. 3200 RPM, 3600, 4000, 44, 48, 52, and so on. So I'll just go through, show you guys, and I'll just slowly go through them so you guys can see the values there. And make a note of them. I'm going to make a note of them after I've done this video. Just so then, it doesn't really matter too much with these, because these, I say, the RPM is quite easy to set up. It's relatively straightforward. It's one of the easier gauges to set up, so you may not need to worry about this too much. You can probably more or less set this up quite easily. But again, I'm just for those people that are struggling. For speed, again, you can type in the speed, the maximum speed of your gauge. Again, obviously, gauges vary from 100 to 200 to 300 miles an hour. They can be several different speeds, and kilometers as well. So bear that in mind. Sorry, I've had some big lunch, so I'm burping. But anyway, as you can see, if I go test, and this one's again simple one to sort of demonstrate. As you can see, my cluster's going nuts because it's saying that the oil temperature's way through the roof. Because as soon as you initialise the calibration, it sets everything up to either the top limit or the low limit. It's weird how it works like that. Don't ask me why it works like that. But anyway, as you can see, take a note of the values, guys, if you need to. I was to say pause it if you need to. But there's 4 mph. That's 8 mph. You won't see it because it's behind my wheel. 16 mph. 24 mph. You might be able to see it now. 32 mph. You can change from mph to kmh as well if you prefer. Obviously I'm mph. 40 mph. 48 mph. 56 mph. And roll down to the next slot. 64 mph. 72 mph. 80 mph. 88 mph. That's when you just start to go back to the future. 96 mph. 104, you're going to get If you're going this speed in real life, you're looking at a ban. 112 mph. As you can see, look, just make a note of the values as well, guys. I'm definitely, after I've done this recording, I'm going to be making note of these values. Again, the speed's not too bad to adjust. It's one of the easy ones. 120, 128, 136, 144, 152, and that's 160. You'd be definitely losing license at that point. Right, gauge 1 for me is disabled because I've got nothing connected to that. Gauge 2 for me is a brake air pressure, but again, this will not apply to you unless, of course, you've improvised a gauge. If I try and just tilt it up, I've got that gauge there for my air pressure. But again, this may not apply to you. That's like it's a replica Dragon racing gauge, or Evo gauge, Evo 4. I think it's an Evo 4 gauge. But anyway, as you can see, there's the if I press test, you won't see it because it's above, but test goes to 0%, and then this one's a bit more vague because these ones doesn't tell you where you want it. It's where it wants it on the scale of the gauge. It's just saying test 25% of the scale. So obviously 25% of whatever the whole of the dial is. What I typically advise is set at 50%. So whatever, if it's 100 bar, set at 5 bar, and then 25% would be between 0 and 5, and then 75% between 5 and 10. Just as an example, but as you can see, my values are there. So that's 50%. Which works out for me, it's a 75 psi, because this is 150 psi gauge. Although I can't, because this gauge, I think, as I say, it's a cheap knockoff. For some reason, it can't go right up to the top pressure at 150. It just goes crazy, and it just it's beyond the reach of its capabilities. A little you can get a little thing from SymProjects that can sort of like calibrate it, so you might find it a bit easy to calibrate. I didn't bother with that. If I got it working to a point where I'm happy with, so if I couldn't get it working, I would have bought that extra bit. I've got one for my oil pressure gauge because it needs it. It just doesn't work otherwise, or you just can't configure it without it. But of course, I'll leave links in the description down below for Sim Racing or SymProjects, so you guys can have a look at that if you guys don't know what it is. But 75% is 113 psi, and then obviously 150 psi. I've got it, mine sets to 148 because I can't get it to bang on 150. It goes nuts, like I said. Gauge 3 is my oil pressure. Right, again, that's set from 0 to 10 bar. It's not psi. This is weird. I know it's just what I'm working with. 0 obviously sets it to 0 pressure. That light should go out now, or the water temperature won't, because that's them going nuts. But the 25% for me is just about 2.6, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 bar. 50% is 5 bar. It's roughly 4.9. It's such sort of flagging up. I might need to just tweak that up by. Hang on, what's this doing? Yeah, something which I didn't actually cover. Where was it? This one, PSI. Yeah, with these, as you guys can see, with my oil pressure, brake pressure, and my oil pressure as well. Look how the gauges are reversed. It's not how you'd imagine it. Unlike the first speed and RPM, it doesn't go from lowest to highest. It actually starts reversed. So 0% being the highest value, going to the highest percentage of the gauge being the lowest value and here. So obviously it's 100%, it's the lowest value here, but 0% is the highest value here. A lot of people got caught out by that, and so did I. I found that it was causing it to not work. So if you find it's not working, try going for the lowest percentage first, and see once you get that working, then you'll notice it's like either as you increase the number or decrease the number, it should start going down. With each percentage, each figure you bring it down. But as you can see, it's 196 for the lowest, 175, 25%, and this is back to the oil pressure, by the way. 157, 50%, 143, 75%, 133. But that's only if you've got that same gauge as I have. For the oil pressure, sort of water temperature, I'll skip one. Oil pressure, again, that only works if you got that specific gauge I have. They did sell it on, I think they might be out of stock now. You'll see it on there. There's an oil pressure gauge. I think it's Depot Racing one or whatever it is. I got that because it's both analog and digital. So again, as you can see, it's reversed. So the 100% being the lowest figure and the 0% being the highest figure. Now 50% was not quite right, was it? So I need to go, was it down one? There we go. I said, right, okay. Again, this is a bit fiddly, because if now it's at that, it's now gone up to 5.1 bar, and then that goes to 4.9. So 4.9 is as close as I can get it. A bit of tweaking with the little, I forget what it's called. It's a little module that you put on it. It sort of like varies the resistance. Might tweak that out, but I'm happy with that. 75% takes up to 7.4 bar, and the figure for that is 143, and then 100% is 133. Again, don't use these figures as an exact, just give them as a rough base guide. Just try them and see what happens. Right, water temperature. Now, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's just a bit because of the light. I'm losing a lot of light quickly. But as you can see, it's roughly here. It's right up to the max, and that's why the water temperature is set. Now, if I set that to 0, it won't instantaneously go back down. You can see it is dropping. The light isn't great, but it is dropping. Because I'm not in game, or I can't activate my my lights. Actually, I could actually. I don't know if there's a relay option on here. I'll come back out in a second. Try that. So we got to gauge 6. And let me just okay that for now. Let me see if I can get the relays to turn on. Turn signal left to. See, now these are the relay settings. I will go into that as well. You can actually test these. If you got the relay package, that's also on the site. You can see. Look, if you press test, you can sort of like correlate what it does. So then, if you put in that input into the game, it comes up with the relevant light on your cluster, and you can see hazard lights. That should be light. Hang on, that's not hazard lights. That's hazard lights. Why is that coming up with hazard lights? Oh no, sorry, headlights. Yeah, as you can see, look, if I do that, actually, if I do that, that should. No, it's not gonna switch on and off. Okay, and those are other settings which I haven't got enabled. But as you guys can see, you can change the settings. So if where was headlights? Disabled. Now I've got that, so that's set up to full beam, as you can see, look. So if I go from dipped to full, that goes on. That should turn on the whole thing, but look, as you can see, it's now at lowest setting. I've got that 0% and it's gone out. Go back into configure. So we was at, what I'll do is I'll go and switch the light on. I'll pause the video here and switch the light on so it makes it easier for you guys to see. Bear with a sec. Okay guys, sorry about that. Now I've got the light on, so it makes it easier for you guys to see. Excuse me. Alright, so if we go back to the what was it, the water temperature. As you can see, it's not greatly lit up, but it is better now. It's gone back up to the maximum. I'll go through the figures again slowly so you guys can see what's going on. Again, with this one, it actually does work the correct way round. So the lowest figure is the lowest percentage, and then it steps up to the highest percentage. So if I put that to 100% as test, that's maximum. And this comes on automatically. You might not find that light comes on your cluster. All depends on whether you got it wired right. But the way I think I wired that is I earthed that particular light, so it went out. Once they're earthed, they should go out unless the gauge tells it to come back on. 75%. So 100% is 655. 75% is 500. Yeah. And as you can see, I've hit test. You can see it is slowly going down, but it's very slow. Now, what I'd say, leave one of these like 0%. Go scroll the slider all the way up so it's beyond its limit. So then you'll see it flash up and then it'll drop back down again. And what I'd say is then go through the rest of your calibration settings. And then you're good to go. You're more or less you're good to go. So what you do is then, because if you don't want to wait for it to sink like I'm waiting for it to sink down, just put that one, say 0% at way out of calibration, and then just hit 50%, and you'll see it rise up. And then if it's not where you want it, adjust it down again, hit 0, and then hit 50% again, and it should go down and reset the needle a lot quicker rather than waiting it to gradually drop down to where you want it. So 50%, it's roughly dropping down to 90, but it does take a little time. 25%, and then you can again look at the values, guys, if you need to. Pause at any time if you need to as well, and then 0%. And then gauge 5 is our fuel level. Same thing applies with this. As you can see, the fuel level was the same as the oil pressure and the water temperature, I think it was. They're reversed. A lot of people have had problems with this and couldn't get theirs to work. Now look at mine. look how it's set out. Again, like I say, it's the highest value is the lowest value, if you know what I mean. So it's 100%, but it's got the lowest value on the scale, and then just work your way up. Like I say, just gently go from 0% and mouse wheel or tap up on here if you don't have a mouse wheel or tap, and just roll up until you see the actual gauge jump up. Then you keep going up until it then falls back down again. That's when you know you've got roughly stop. Obviously, once it's rolled back down, you know you've roughly got to the top end of the gauge. Then just slowly roll back down until it hits the top again, and then just work that as a guide, then work down from that. But if I go test, it doesn't jump up to full straight away. If I were to reset this, it would. It'd go down and go back up again, but it might also reset Simdash trying, turning it off and on off again. But again, it's one of those ones that I would say set to one of these so it's way out of scale, and then just slowly bring it in to where you need it on your actual fuel gauge. As you can see, it's got maximum of 1,400 litres. Ignore that. Now, when it comes to obviously this, you can work in litres, you can work in gallons as well. I don't know if it's US gallons or European gallons or the old metric gallons, or imperial gallons. I don't know what gallons type it is, but it's just standard gallons, because I know there's two types of gallons. There's a US gallon and there's another type of gallon, but that's not your maximum value. What you need to do is go into your game, and then find out if your game's complicated enough, it should give you a diagnostics of the vehicle, and it should tell you how many litres that vehicle has in its tank, or how big are the tank capacity. Say you're driving a little Mini and it's got, like, I'm using this example, 100-litre tank. You then set the maximum value at 100 litres, the minimum value being 0 litres. And then once you got that doesn't really matter when it comes to calibrating. That only matters to whatever game you're playing. And again, you'll need to come out and obviously set this and then go back in the game, and then it should be good to go. Once you've reset your Simdash, it then should tell you what sort of fuel you get. Not all games tell you what the fuel level is, and I know some of the older games I've got don't. Some of my old sim racing games I used to play, which I still ever do every now and again, they just don't tell you how many litres are in a car. They tell you how many litres of fuel it's carrying, but it doesn't tell you the fuel tank capacity, so it's a bit hard to figure it out. But games like Euro Truck and American Truck tell you what the litre capacity is. But I'm digressing. Right, so again, using that again as a guide, guys, not as a general rule, but that's how I've set mine up. As you can see, it's 217. Yeah, that 410, 477. And again, it's just work it as a guide. Gauge 6 for me is oil temperature. Now this one again is one of those weird ones. It's a bit slow. You won't see where it is because it's on the bottom left. It's down here. It's just out of the camera shot. But it does actually. It works faster than the other gauges, but it can be a bit finicky to get it bang on. But it does actually work. And then obviously the relays. You got that option when it's stopped, but only if you've got the latest version. If you've got an older version, you might not see that, or if you don't have the relays, it doesn't apply. But I hope that hope that helped you guys and girls out. If it did, again, guys and girls, please feel free to like. If this didn't help you out, or you didn't like this for any reason, please feel free to dislike. But leave a comment either way down, so then it helps me improve in the future for future videos. If you know anyone else that may also find this useful, or helpful in any way, guys and girls, please feel free to share. It helps me out a lot, and I don't mind you sharing. And if you're new to my channel and you see future sort of like updates on what I'm doing with the Simdash or anything else I'm working on, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so then you're aware as soon as I upload a new video. I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.